Part 1 asked, why is the universe silent? Part 2 asked, are we the reason? Part 3 asks the question that keeps astronomers awake at night. What happens when the silence breaks? When we detect a signal? When we find ruins on a distant world? When something finds us first? Because in the dark forest there are only 3 kinds of first contact: discovery, being discovered, and mutual detection. And in every scenario someone has to decide, do we reach out or do we fire? If these explorations intrigue you, a like or subscribe helps, but let's continue. Here's where we've been. Part 1 introduced us to the dark forest, Cixin's answer to the Fermi paradox. The universe isn't empty, it's full of civilizations hiding from each other. Because out there, in the darkness between stars, survival means silence. Broadcasting your location is suicide. The forest is quiet not because it's empty, but because everything in it is holding its breath. Part 2 made it personal. We asked, what if we're not the prey? What if we're the predator we've been afraid of? For a century we've been screaming into the void. Radio, television, deliberate messages to the stars. We've already broken the silence. We've already announced ourselves. And if the dark forest is real, we might have just made the most catastrophic mistake in human history. But both parts assumed something. They assumed the silence would continue. They assumed we'd keep hiding, keep wondering, keep searching an empty sky. Part 3 begins when that assumption breaks. Because the thing about the dark forest theory, the thing that makes it more than philosophy, more than science fiction, is that it's testable, falsifiable. One day, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 1,000 years, we will detect something. A signal we can't explain. A structure that shouldn't exist. A radio burst with patterns too precise to be natural. And in that moment, everything changes. The theory becomes a scenario. The thought experiment becomes a decision tree. And we, you, me, our species, we have to choose a path with no map, no historical precedent, and no way back. We've spent 2 parts understanding the forest. Now we have to decide what we do when we're no longer alone in it, when the silence breaks, when the hiding ends, when 2 civilizations find themselves face to face across the light years. Do we make contact? Do we go silent and hope we weren't seen? Do we prepare for the worst? This is part 3, the moment when theory meets reality. When the dark forest stops being something we study and becomes something we survive. Or don't. Because there's one more thing the dark forest theory teaches us. One final, inescapable rule that we haven't talked about yet. In the forest, there are only 2 kinds of civilizations. The ones still hiding, and the ones that try to make contact. And the silence tells you which one survives. Let's establish the framework. Because first contact isn't one situation. It's 3 fundamentally different scenarios, each with its own logic, its own dangers, its own terrible choices. Scenario A. We find them first. We detect a civilization that doesn't know we exist. Maybe it's a radio signal from a planet 50 light-years away. Maybe it's artificial structures on a moon orbiting a distant star. Maybe it's a probe drifting through the Kuiper belt that clearly didn't come from here. But the critical factor is this. We know. They don't. We have information advantage. We have time to study them, to learn their capabilities, to assess the threat, to make our choice in private. We're the Columbus standing on the shore, watching the smoke from distant fires, planning our approach. They're still unaware that everything is about to change. Scenario B, they find us first, the reverse. We wake up one day to a signal clearly meant for us, or a ship appears in orbit, or we find a probe that's been watching us for centuries. We have no preparation, no intelligence, no time. They chose the moment. They control the information. They've already made their assessments about us, and we're only now learning they exist. We're the Taino, watching strange ships appear on the horizon, with no context for what's coming, no framework to understand what these visitors want or what they're capable of. History tells us how this scenario tends to end, and we're usually not the ones writing that history. Scenario C, mutual detection, the most unstable scenario. We detect them at the same time they detect us, or close enough that neither has meaningful advantage. Maybe we both picked up each other's radio leakage. Maybe we both sent probes that arrived simultaneously. Maybe we're close enough in technological development that discovery was inevitable and simultaneous. Neither side has time, neither side has more information. Both civilizations know the other exists, both know the other knows, and now both face the same prisoner's dilemma, the same terrible calculus at the same moment. Here's what matters about these scenarios. In each one, someone has an edge. Even if it's small, even if it's temporary, someone knows first. Someone has more time to think. Someone can choose whether to reveal themselves or stay hidden. And in the dark forest, that edge might be the only thing that matters, because advantage isn't just tactical, it's existential. The civilization that detects first can watch, study, prepare. They can search for weaknesses. They can develop countermeasures. They can make an informed decision about whether contact is safe. The civilization detected first. They're making decisions blind, reactive, desperate. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. For 4 billion years on Earth, the organism that detects the predator first survives. The one that gets detected first becomes lunch. Why would it be different in space? Why would the same logic that governs every food chain, every arms race, every survival strategy on this planet suddenly stop applying once you leave the atmosphere? It wouldn't. And that's the horror of these scenarios. One of them will happen, maybe in our lifetime, maybe long after we're gone. We'll find them, they'll find us, or we'll stumble into each other in the dark, and the moment it happens, someone has to decide what comes next, with incomplete information, across impossible distances, with the survival of their entire species hanging on whether they guess right. Let's walk through what each scenario actually looks like. Imagine you're the astronomer on shift. It's 2:47 a.m. You're reviewing data from the radio telescope array, the same routine analysis you've done 1,000 times, and then you see it, a signal, repeating pattern. 47 light-years away, from a star system we've catalogued but never paid much attention to. You run it through the filters. Natural phenomenon? No. Equipment malfunction? No. Human satellite interference? No. The pattern is mathematical. Prime numbers, then Fibonacci sequence, then something more complex, clearly structured, clearly intentional, clearly artificial. You've just confirmed we're not alone. What happens in the next 60 seconds? Your hands are shaking. You need to verify. You pull up the data again, run different algorithms, check for any possible error, but it's there, undeniable, repeating every 11.3 hours like clockwork. Someone, something, 47 light-years away is broadcasting, has been broadcasting. The signal you're seeing left their world in 1978, travelled through space while we invented the internet, fought wars, decoded genomes, and now it's here, scrolling across your screen in the dead of night. You reach for the phone, your supervisor's number is right there. One call and this becomes real. This becomes official, this becomes irreversible, and that's where you stop. Because you're realizing something that makes your blood run cold. You can't unknow this. There's no protocol for pretending you didn't see it. No way to delete the data from every backup, every log, every redundant system. In 60 seconds, when you make that call, the information spreads. Your supervisor tells the director tells the government tells allies tell rivals. Within hours, everyone knows. Within days, everyone's making decisions about what it means and what we do next. The choice to contact them or hide from them, that's not even the first choice. The first choice is whether to tell anyone you found them, and you've already lost that choice, because you followed protocol, because you verified, because the moment you confirm the signal was real, you set events in motion that can't be stopped. But there's something worse. something you can't stop thinking about as you sit there, phone in hand, staring at the data. They sent this signal 47 years ago, which means they see us as we were 47 years ago, 1978. Voyager just launched. The Cold War at its height. Primitive computing, no internet. They're watching us from the past, making decisions about us based on who we were, not who we are. And here's the thought that won't leave you alone. What if they've been watching longer than that? What if they detected our first radio broadcasts in the 1930s? That signal reached them in 1978, the same year they started broadcasting back. What if this isn't first contact? What if this is a response? What if they've known about us for decades, studied us, reached conclusions about us, and this signal, this polite mathematical greeting, is already based on decisions they made about whether we're dangerous, whether we're useful, whether we're worth contacting at all? You don't know what they know. You don't know when they knew it. You don't know what they've decided. And you won't know for 47 more years, because that's how long your message will take to reach them, and how long their response will take to come back. You're holding a phone that will change human civilization forever, and you have no idea if calling it in saves us or dooms us. In the dark forest, the moment you know you're not alone is the moment you're no longer safe. So let's say we're the lucky ones. We detect them. They don't know we exist, not yet anyway. We've found their radio signals, or spotted their city lights on a distant exoplanet, or intercepted communications they're sending to each other, not to us. They're going about their lives completely unaware that across 50 or 100 or 200 light years, someone is watching. We have the advantage. We have time. We can study them without risk, learn everything we can before making any decisions. We're the ones in control. And that's when the questions start. First question, do we watch in silence? We could monitor them indefinitely. Listen to their broadcasts, study their technology, map their civilization, learn their weaknesses and their strengths. Never reveal ourselves. Never take the risk. Just observe. Like anthropologists studying an uncontacted tribe, but with light years of safety between us. We lose nothing by waiting. We learn everything we can. And if they eventually detect us on their own, well, at least we had time to prepare. Second question, do we make contact? We could send a message. Mathematics, prime numbers, something universal. We see you. We come in peace. We could be the first civilization in galactic history to break the silence with good intentions. Maybe they're asking the same questions we are. Maybe they're just as lonely, just as terrified, just as desperate to know they're not alone. Maybe contact is the beginning of something extraordinary. Cooperation, knowledge sharing, mutual survival. Or maybe we're handing them our location, our capabilities, our vulnerabilities on a silver platter. Third question, do we strike first? And here's where it gets dark, because we have to consider it. If the dark forest is real, if the universe is full of civilizations hiding from predators, then finding someone before they find you isn't just an advantage, it's potentially the only chance you get. A preemptive strike, relativistic kinetic, weapons. Send them at near-light speed and they arrive centuries before any warning could. You eliminate the threat before it knows you exist. You guarantee your survival by ensuring theirs ends. Every civilization we know is us. Every explorer, every first contact in human history started with noble intentions. Cortés didn't arrive in Mexico planning genocide. He arrived planning trade, diplomacy, maybe a little conquest if needed. But he spent months studying the Aztecs before making contact, learning their politics, their divisions, their weaknesses. And when he finally revealed himself, he did it from a position of total information advantage. The Aztecs never had a chance. Now flip it. We're Cortés. We found a civilization, and we're studying them from a distance. We can see their industrial signature, analyze their atmospheric composition, estimate their technological level. Maybe they're less advanced than us. Maybe they're at our level. Maybe they're slightly ahead. But we spotted them first, so we still have time. What do? The optimist says, we're better than Cortez. We've learned from history. We'd make contact peacefully, cautiously, with respect. And maybe that's true. Maybe we would. But here's what keeps the pessimist awake. Cortez thought he was being peaceful too. He thought he was bringing civilization, enlightenment, God's word. He genuinely believed he was doing the right thing, and within a generation the Aztec civilization was gone. Good intentions don't prevent catastrophe. Sometimes they enable it. Finding them first gives us power. Power to watch, power to contact, power to destroy. And the question isn't whether we'd use that power wisely, it's whether any civilization faced with existential uncertainty could afford to gamble on wisdom over survival. Because in the dark forest, the one who shoots first doesn't have to shoot twice, and the one who hesitates doesn't get another chance. Let's say we decide to make contact. We're going to send a message. We want to say, hello, we're intelligent, we're peaceful, we're curious, we mean no harm. How do you say that? No, really. How do you communicate peaceful intent to a species you've never met using concepts that might not even exist in their framework of reality? We start with mathematics. That's the universal language, right? Pi is pi everywhere in the universe. Prime numbers are prime numbers. Send them the first 100 primes and they'll know. Intelligence made this. Not nature, not chance. Someone is trying to talk. Okay, you've proven you're intelligent. Now what? You need to say, we're friendly. But friendly is a cultural concept. It assumes they have social structures that value cooperation. It assumes they evolved through kinship, through reciprocity, through mutual aid. What if they didn't? What if they evolved as solitary apex predators who only meet to compete? What if peaceful coexistence is literally an alien concept to them? Something their biology never selected for, something their history never required. You could send images. The Arecibo message did this. Pictures of humans, our solar system, our DNA. But images contain information. You're showing them what you look like, your biology, your planetary environment, your star's location. Every pixel is intelligence data they can analyze. We Come in Peace comes with a full dossier on how to find you and what weapons might work against carbon-based life in an oxygen atmosphere. Here's the deeper problem. Every message is a vulnerability. You can't communicate without revealing something about yourself. Language structure reveals cognition patterns. Mathematics reveals computational capability. Any technology advanced enough to send interstellar messages reveals you have energy resources, industrial capacity, scientific knowledge. And in the dark forest, information asymmetry is survival. The more they know about you, the less safe you are. So maybe you keep the message vague, simple, just enough to say, we're here, without saying where here is or what we're capable of. But now you have a different problem. If your message is too vague, too cautious, what does that signal? It signals fear. And fear signals weakness. And weakness, in the evolutionary calculus, signals opportunity. There's a real-world parallel here. The Sentinelist people, an uncontacted tribe on North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean. They've chosen isolation. They attack anyone who approaches their island. Arrows, spears, absolute hostility. And we, the technologically superior civilization, we respect that. We leave them alone. We enforce our exclusion zone. We protect their right to remain uncontacted. Why? Because we can afford to. We're not threatened by them. We don't need their resources. We have the luxury of respecting their choice. Now ask yourself, would an alien civilization extend us the same courtesy? If we broadcast, leave us alone, would they respect it? Or does our ability to send that message already prove we're advanced enough to eventually become a threat? And here's the symmetry that should terrify us. If we receive a message, they're facing the exact same dilemma about us. They sent hello. What were they thinking when they sent it? Were they being peaceful? Or were they being smart, gathering response data, cataloguing who's out there, building a target list for later? When we respond, are we making first contact, Or are we confirming we're home when the predator knocks? Every communication is a gamble. You're betting that the receiver values the same things you do, that they interpret peace the way you do, that they have cultural concepts like mercy, cooperation, or restraint. You're betting your civilization on the hope that evolution, on a completely different world, produce psychology compatible with yours. In the dark forest, saying hello doesn't just reveal that you're there. It reveals that you're willing to take risks, and risk-taking to a patient predator looks a lot like prey. Now let's reverse it. We're not the discoverers, we're the discovered. One day, maybe tomorrow, maybe next century, we receive a message, not our signal echoing back, not background noise we're misinterpreting. A message clearly, intentionally directed at us. In our mathematics, referencing our broadcasts, proving they know we're here, they know what we are, and they've decided to make contact. Or worse, we don't get a message. We just look up one day, and there's something in orbit that wasn't there yesterday. Something that didn't come from Earth. Something that's been watching, waiting, studying us for longer than we can prove. This is scenario B. We have no preparation time, no information advantage, no choice in the moment of contact. They chose when, they chose how, they know things about us we don't know about them. And now we have to respond, blind, reactive, and terrified, to a situation they've been planning for years, decades, maybe centuries. Let's go back to 1492. The Taino people, indigenous inhabitants of the Caribbean, they woke up one day to ships on the horizon. Strange ships, sails, size, design unlike anything in their experience. And on those ships, people, but not like any people they'd ever seen. Different skin, different language, different technology. And those people were smiling, friendly, offering gifts, wanting to trade. Within 50 years, the Taino were functionally extinct. Disease, enslavement, conquest. Not because the Spanish were uniquely evil, by the standards of their time, they were typical. But because first contact, when one side has ships and steel, and the other has canoes and stone, doesn't end in cultural exchange. It ends in subjugation. The Taino didn't choose the timing. They didn't choose the terms. They had no intelligence about who these visitors were or what they wanted. They had to make every decision reactively, desperately, with incomplete information while Columbus and his crew had crossed an ocean specifically to find them. Now imagine that scenario with a 1,000-year technology gap instead of a few centuries. Imagine they can cross interstellar space and we can't. Imagine they have energy sources we can't comprehend, materials we can't reproduce, weapons we can't counter. Imagine they've been listening to our broadcasts for decades, learning our languages, studying our history, mapping our politics, identifying our weaknesses, and we're just now finding out they exist. What leverage do we have? What do we negotiate with? How do you establish mutual respect with a civilization that can do things you can't even imagine? The optimist has an answer. Advanced civilizations must be peaceful. If they weren't, they'd have destroyed themselves before achieving interstellar travel. Any species that solves cooperation, that overcomes war and scarcity, that builds the technology to cross light years, they must have transcended violence. It's a beautiful thought. And it might even be true. But history suggests otherwise. Because here's what we know about success. Successful species aren't the peaceful ones. They're the effective ones. Wolves are successful. Ants are successful. Humans are successful. And none of us got here through pacifism. We got here through competition, through conquest, through being better than our rivals at survival. Why would space be different? Why would the same evolutionary pressures that produced every successful organism on Earth, adaptability, aggression, resource acquisition, threat elimination, suddenly stop applying once you figure out faster than light travel? Advanced doesn't mean peaceful, it means competent. And competence in nature usually comes at someone else's expense. If they find us first, we're not negotiating from strength. We're not even negotiating from equality. We're the Taino, watching ships appear, trying to decide if the strangers offering gifts are friends or threats. And we won't know the answer until it's far too late to change our response. In the dark forest, being discovered isn't first contact, it's the end of the hiding phase, and everything that happens next has already been decided by someone else. Here's the thing about the dark forest that makes every scenario infinitely worse. You can never know what you're actually dealing with, not because the information doesn't exist, but because the speed of light won't let you have it. Let's make this concrete. We detect a civilization 100 light-years away, clear signs of industrial activity, atmospheric pollution, electromagnetic emissions, maybe even city lights on the night side of their planet. We've found them. We know they're real. We know they're technologically advanced. Now we have to decide, do we make contact? But here's what we're actually seeing. That civilization as it existed 100 years ago. The light reaching us left their world in 1925. We're watching their past. Everything we observe, their technology level, their population, their capabilities, all of it is a century out of date. In 1925, we had radio. We had biplanes. We had silent films and the Model T Ford. We didn't have nuclear weapons. We didn't have computers. We didn't have satellites or rockets or any understanding of DNA. If aliens were watching Earth in 1925, they'd see a civilization that posed zero interstellar threat. But by 1945, just 20 years later, we had split the atom. By 1969, we had walked on the moon. By 2025, we have AI, quantum computers, and we're discussing interstellar probes. 100 years is enough time for a civilization to go from primitive to existential threat. So when we look at them, 100 light-years away, and we see their 1925, what are they actually capable of now in their 2025? Are they still broadcasting radio? Or are they post-biological, uploaded into machines, spreading through their star system with technology we can't even conceptualize? We don't know, and we can't know, because their now won't reach us for another 100 years. But here's the nightmare symmetry. They're looking at us the same way. If they're 100 light-years away, they're seeing Earth as it was in 1925. They're seeing us as primitives. Radio broadcasts, no nukes, no space travel, barely any industrial capacity. They're making decisions about us based on who we were, not who we are. What if to them we look harmless? What if they decided, based on 1925 Earth, that we're not a threat, and they sent a friendly contact mission? That mission left their world travelling at, say, 10% light speed. It'll take 1,000 years to reach us. They sent it in 1925, their time. It arrives in 2925, our time. By then, we might be extinct. Or we might be a galaxy-spanning empire. They sent a friendly probe to primitives, and it arrives to meet something unrecognizable. Or flip it. What if they saw 1925 Earth and thought, these primitives are broadcasting, they're loud, they're going to attract predators, they're going to give away our position too. We're in the same galactic neighborhood. So they launched a preemptive strike, relativistic weapon. Takes centuries to arrive, and it's already on its way. We look at the sky. We see them as peaceful, pastoral, no threat. We're debating whether to say hello, and the weapon they launched based on our 1925 broadcasts is already crossing the void, decades or centuries from impact. This is the speed of light trap. Every observation is ancient history. Every decision is based on data that might be catastrophically wrong. And the delay means that by the time you realize you made a mistake, the consequences are already in motion, already irreversible, already closing the distance at a significant fraction of light speed. You can't wait for better information, because better information means waiting another 100 years, or 200, or 500, And in that time, they're not frozen. They're advancing, changing, making their own decisions about you based on equally outdated data. The only way to act on current intelligence is to be there, to be in the same system, to close the light speed gap to hours or minutes, instead of decades or centuries. And the only way to get there is to leave now, based on old data, hoping your assessment was right, hoping they are who you think they are, hoping they haven't changed. In the dark forest, distance doesn't just separate civilizations, it traps them in each other's past, making decisions about ghosts, while their real selves move unseen through time. Now the worst case, the unstable equilibrium, the scenario where nobody sleeps, mutual detection. We see them, they see us, we know they see us, they know we see them. Both civilizations, at roughly the same moment in cosmic time, become aware of each other. Neither has meaningful advantage, neither has time to prepare in secret. Both are staring across the light years at another intelligence, and both are asking the same question: what do they do now? This is the prisoner's dilemma scaled to species-level extinction. You remember the thought experiment. 2 criminals, separate cells, same offer. Betray your partner and go free while they take the full sentence. Stay silent and you both get light sentences, but if you both betray each other, you both get moderate sentences. The catch: you can't communicate, you can't coordinate, you have to decide alone, knowing your partner is making the same calculation. Game theory says rational actors betray, because if your partner stays, silent betrayal lets you walk free, and if your partner betrays you, betrayal is your only defense. Cooperation is the better outcome for both, but only if you can trust, and trust, when the stakes of prison time, is already hard enough. Now, replace prison sentences with extinction. The payoff matrix looks like this. If both civilizations choose peace, both survive, knowledge sharing, mutual growth, maybe even cooperation, the best possible outcome. If one civilization strikes first and the other doesn't, the aggressor survives and the peaceful one is destroyed. If both strike simultaneously, the outcome depends on whose weapons are faster, whose defenses are better. Possible mutual destruction, possible one-sided victory, guaranteed catastrophe. In the prisoner's dilemma, defecting is the rational choice. But we're not talking about prison. We're talking about annihilation. One mistake and your species ends. Not a bad outcome. Not a suboptimal outcome, the end. So what's the rational move? The first strike advantage says, strike now. Because if you wait, they might strike first. And if they strike first, you might not get a chance to strike back. Relativistic weapons cross interstellar space too fast for light speed warnings. By the time you see the attack coming, it's seconds from impact. Your only advantage is launching before they do. Your only safety is their destruction. But if you strike first, you become the very predator the dark forest warns about. You validate the theory by becoming proof of it. You destroy a civilization that might have been peaceful, might have been cooperative, might have been humanity's first friend in the cosmos, and you'll never know. Because dead civilizations don't answer questions about their intentions. The Cold War tried to solve this. Mutually assured destruction. The idea that if both sides have enough weapons to guarantee retaliation, nobody strikes first because nobody survives. It worked. Barely. The world came within minutes of nuclear war multiple times, but we're still here. MAD held. But MAD requires certainty. You have to be absolutely sure that if you're hit, you can hit back. Submarines, hardened silos, early warning systems, satellite networks. The whole architecture of deterrence depends on guaranteed second strike capability. Across interstellar distances, you can't guarantee retaliation. By the time their weapon arrives, it might sterilize your entire world. No second strike, no retaliation, no deterrence. Just the first civilization to decide that survival requires aggression. This is why mutual detection is the most dangerous scenario, because it's symmetrical. Both sides have the same information, the same fears, the same incentive to strike first. Both sides are doing the same calculation, knowing the other is doing it too. And both sides know. The only way to guarantee survival might be to ensure the other doesn't get a chance to make the same choice. In the dark, forest, when two civilizations step into the clearing at the same time, it's not first contact, it's a standoff, and standoffs in nature don't end peacefully. They end when one side flinches, or when one side doesn't. Let's make this practical. We've detected them. The signal is verified, confirmed artificial, confirmed intelligent. It's real. Now what? Who decides what humanity does next? You'd think we'd have a plan for this. We don't. Not really. SETI has protocols, guidelines for what to do if we detect an extraterrestrial signal. Step 1, verify. Step 2, inform other observatories. Step 3, notify the United Nations. Step 4, don't respond until there's international consensus. Sounds reasonable. Except international consensus is a fantasy when the stakes are existential. Imagine the UN Security Council debate. The United States says, we should respond. This is humanity's destiny. We can't hide forever. China says, silence. Any response is too dangerous. We vote to maintain the status quo. Russia says, if anyone responds, it should be coordinated, and we should speak from strength, show them we're not weak. The European Union is split internally. India wants input, but isn't sure what that input should be. Smaller nations are terrified they'll be ignored entirely in a decision that affects them just as much as the superpowers. How do you get consensus when every nation has different risk tolerances, different philosophies, different ideas about humanity's future? You don't. So what happens? Maybe one nation decides unilaterally. The country with the most powerful transmitter just sends a message. We're speaking for Earth. Are they? Who gave them that authority? What if the rest of the world disagrees? What if we're all screaming, don't respond, and they do it anyway because they believe they're right, they're brave, they're thinking long-term while everyone else panics? Or maybe it's not a government. Maybe it's a private observatory, a billionaire's SETI project, a university research team. They detected the signal, they control the equipment, they can transmit whenever they want. Do they wait for permission from governments that will debate for years and never agree? Or do they decide that they, the ones who found it, have the right, maybe the duty, to respond? Here's the horror. Whoever controls the telescope controls the decision. One person, one team, one institution. They can send a message to an alien civilization speaking for all 8 billion of us, and there's no mechanism to stop them. By the time anyone knows they've done it, the message is already travelling at light speed, irreversible, carrying humanity's location and our decision to reveal ourselves to the cosmos. Would you trust them? Would you trust a government committee, a UN panel, a lone astronomer convinced they're doing the right thing? Would you trust yourself? Because here's the thing, someone has to decide. Inaction is a decision. Silence is a decision. Every day we don't respond is a day we choose hiding over contact. But who has the legitimacy to make that choice for the species? Not elected officials. They represent nations. Not humanity. Not scientists. They have expertise but no democratic mandate. Not the UN. It's a forum for nations, not a world government. Not any individual, obviously. But also not any collective, because we'll never agree. 8 billion people with 8 billion opinions. Some say, contact them. This is what we've been waiting for. Others say, stay silent. Don't doom our children. Some say, strike first. Survival trumps morality. And all of them are making valid points from their own frameworks, their own values, their own assessments of risk. There's no right answer. There's no consensus mechanism. There's no legitimate decision maker. There's just whoever acts first. And that's terrifying. Because the most important decision in human history, whether to reveal ourselves to an alien intelligence, won't be made democratically, carefully, or wisely. It'll be made by whoever happens to be in the room when the signal arrives and decides they know better than the rest of us what humanity should do. In the dark forest, we don't get to vote on survival. We just get to hope that whoever makes the choice is right. Beyond strategy, beyond game theory, beyond survival calculations, there's a moral question we can't avoid. What do we owe each other? What do we owe the universe? The argument for contact is compelling. It goes like this. We're alone. For all of human history, we've been the only intelligence we know. We've built civilizations, created art, decoded reality itself. And we've done it in isolation, with no one to share it with, no one to confirm that consciousness and curiosity and wonder aren't just cosmic accidents that happened once on one small world. If there's another civilization out there, we have a duty to reach out, not just to them, but to ourselves, to overcome fear, to choose connection over paranoia, to prove that intelligence can rise above the brutal logic of survival. Silence, in this view, is cowardice. It's letting fear dictate our future. It's accepting that the universe is a dark forest, and we should hide forever rather than risk lighting a candle. What kind of species do we want to be? The kind that reaches for the stars, or the kind that cowers in the dark, too afraid to even whisper? And there's this. Maybe they're asking the same questions. Maybe they detected us and they're terrified too. Maybe they're debating whether to respond, whether to take the risk, whether to trust. If we stay silent, if we choose fear, we guarantee mutual isolation. We doom both civilizations to loneliness when we could have had connection. That's not caution, that's tragedy. But the argument against contact is just as powerful. It says, we're not just deciding for ourselves, we're deciding for every human who will ever be born, our children, their children, generations stretching into the deep future, and we have no right, none, to gamble their existence on our optimism. Survival isn't cowardice, it's responsibility. Our duty isn't to the cosmos, it's to the children of Earth who didn't ask to be born into a universe where one radio transmission could end. Their world, every first contact in human history, every single one, ended badly for someone, usually for the less advanced civilization, usually with death, displacement, cultural erasure. That's not pessimism, that's data, that's the record. And the record says, when two civilizations meet with a power imbalance, the weaker one doesn't get to negotiate. They get to be history. We don't know if we're the stronger or the weaker in this equation. We don't know if contact means transcendence or extinction. And when the stakes are that high, when the cost of being wrong is the end of everything, how can choosing silence be immoral? The thing that haunts both sides, the thing that makes this impossible, is that we can't test our assumptions. We can't run the experiment twice. We make the choice once. We live with it forever, or we don't live at all. Are we obligated to reach out, or obligated to protect? Both. Neither. The universe doesn't care about our moral frameworks, it just waits to see what we choose. We don't have to speculate about what happens when two civilizations meet. We have the data. We've run this experiment dozens of times on Earth, and the results are remarkably consistent. The Taino people, the ones Columbus encountered, numbered around 1 million when he arrived. Within 50 years, functionally extinct. Not because the Spanish were uniquely monstrous, because they brought diseases the Taino had no immunity to, because they had steel and the Taino had stone, because they had horses and ships and organizational structures that allowed them to project power across an ocean. The technology gap did what technology gaps do. It selected a winner. The Aboriginal Australians had lived on their continent for 65,000 years. 65,000 years of continuous culture, sophisticated ecological knowledge, complex social structures. The British arrived in 1788. Within a century, population collapsed from over 750,000 to fewer than 100,000. Displacement, disease, deliberate killings. Not ancient history. This was happening while Darwin was writing about evolution, while Europe was building railroads and hosting world's fairs. Civilization meeting civilization. One had rifles, one had spears, the Aztecs, the Inca, the kingdoms of West Africa, indigenous peoples of North America. The pattern repeats. Technological superiority creates power imbalance. Power imbalance creates exploitation. Exploitation creates erasure. And here's what should terrify us. Most of these encounters started peacefully. Cortés was welcomed into Tenochtitlan. Cook was initially received with curiosity by Aboriginal Australians. Early colonial relationships in Africa involved trade, diplomacy, even alliances. The catastrophes didn't begin with invasion. They began with contact, with exchange, with one side learning about the other while trying to figure out what this new relationship meant. The destruction came later. Once the advanced civilization understood the resources available, once they realized the indigenous people couldn't stop them, once economic incentives or political pressures or simple opportunity overwhelmed whatever initial goodwill existed, even when intentions were peaceful, genuinely peaceful, outcomes were devastating. Missionaries brought schools and medicine. They also brought cultural genocide, forced conversions, children stolen from families. They meant well. That didn't matter. The impact was still erasure. So when someone says, advanced civilizations must be peaceful, history asks, peaceful compared to what? The European powers that colonized the world were the most advanced civilizations of their time. They had art, philosophy, democracy, human rights declarations. They still extracted continents and enslaved populations because advancement and morality don't correlate the way we want them to. Now ask the question we've been avoiding. In an alien first contact scenario, which side of this history are we on? If we encounter a less advanced civilization, what makes us think we'd behave differently than every other advanced civilization in human history? Our values, our ethics. Every colonizer thought they had superior values too. That's partly why they felt justified. And if they encounter us, if we're the less advanced civilization, why would aliens treat us better than Europeans treated the Americas? Because they've transcended violence. On what evidence? Because they've achieved interstellar travel? So had we, by the time we were colonizing. Technology doesn't equal enlightenment. The historical record is clear. First contact doesn't create friendship. It creates a hierarchy. And hierarchies, when backed by power imbalances, don't end well for the weaker party. In the dark forest, history isn't a guide, it's a warning. Here's what makes first contact different from every other decision humanity has ever faced. You can't take it back. Nuclear weapons. We can't uninvent them, but we can choose not to use them. We can negotiate treaties. We can reduce arsenals. The danger persists, but it's manageable. Climate change. We can't reverse what we've done, but we can mitigate it. We can stop making it worse. Adapt. Survive. The damage is done, but the story isn't over. First contact, the moment you transmit, it's done. Forever. The signal travels at light speed. It's already 186,000 miles away in the first second, a light year away in a year, 10 light years away in a decade. You can't recall it. You can't update it. You can't say, wait, we've changed our minds, because by the time you send that correction, the original message has already travelled further than your second thoughts. And it's not just the message, it's what the message reveals. Your location, confirmed. Your technological level, demonstrated. Your decision-making, exposed. You've shown that you're willing to break silence, willing to take risks, willing to reveal yourself. That information is now permanent. It exists in the universe. Anyone listening knows you exist, knows where you are, knows you're not hiding anymore. Compare this to the Arecibo message. In 1974, we transmitted a radio message toward the globular cluster M13. 3 minutes of data, location of Earth in the solar system, structure of DNA, human form, our population. It'll arrive in 25,000 years. We sent it as demonstration, a symbolic gesture, a technological achievement more than a serious attempt at contact. But it's out there, travelling, permanent, and if something intercepts it, if M13 isn't empty, if there's a listening post between here and there, they'll decode it, learn about us, know where we came from. We've already made the choice. We just won't live to see the consequences. Our descendants will, in the year 50,000 AD. If humanity still exists, they might receive a response to the Arecibo message. They'll inherit a decision made by people who died 48,000 years earlier. They'll have to deal with whatever that contact means, cooperation, conflict, or something we can't imagine. Because we decided one afternoon in 1974 to announce ourselves to the cosmos. That's irreversibility. That's the weight. Not just that we can't undo it, but that we won't even be there when the consequences arrive. Every other existential decision, nuclear war, climate catastrophe, AI development, at least plays out on human timescales. We might live to see what we've done. We might fix it. We might adapt. First contact echoes across centuries, millennia, forever. Once you break the silence, the forest knows you're there, and you can't hide again. Let's talk about what first contact actually means. Not the philosophy, not the decision tree, the outcomes, the futures that wait on the other side of the choice. There are three possibilities. Outcome 1, cooperation. Contact leads to communication. Communication leads to exchange. We share knowledge. They share knowledge. Maybe slowly, carefully, across decades or centuries of light-speed lag. But gradually we build something. Trust, understanding, partnership. Maybe we join a galactic community that's been waiting for us to mature enough to find them. Maybe we're the first two civilizations to successfully bridge the dark forest's silence. Either way, we transcend our isolation. We're no longer alone. Humanity enters a larger story. Outcome 2, destruction. Contact leads to conflict. Maybe immediate, maybe delayed, maybe intentional, maybe accidental. A misunderstanding, a cultural incompatibility, a technological gap too large to navigate peacefully. But the result is the same. One civilization ends. Maybe it's them, maybe it's us, maybe it's mutual annihilation. But first contact becomes last contact. The silence returns. The forest claims another civilization that gambled wrong. Outcome 3, eternal standoff. Contact leads to stalemate. Both civilizations aware of each other, neither willing to trust, neither able to attack without risking retaliation. A cold war in space, stretching across light years and centuries. Weapons pointed at each other forever. Diplomacy locked in permanent suspicion. No cooperation, no destruction. Just two civilizations frozen in mutual paranoia, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Here's what all three outcomes have in common. They're irreversible, and in every scenario, Earth as we know it ends. Even in the best case, peaceful contact, cooperation, exchange, we stop being what we were. Our isolation ends. Our independence ends. We become part of something larger, whether that's beautiful or terrifying. The Earth that existed before contact, the humanity that wondered if we were alone, that's over. We can't go back to not knowing. And here's the thing that should keep us awake. We might never know which outcome we're in until it's over. If contact leads to cooperation, there'll be warning signs, messages exchanged, gradual trust building. We'll see it coming. But if contact leads to destruction, by the time we realize the choice was wrong, the relativistic weapon is already in transit, already decades from impact, already unstoppable. The dark forest theory says, look at the sky. See how quiet it is? Those aren't empty stars. Those are civilizations that made a choice, and the ones that chose wrong, they stopped broadcasting. We only hear the silence, we never hear the screams. You're the astronomer, it's 2:47 a.m. The signal is on your screen, confirmed, artificial, intelligent, 47 light-years away. Your hand is on the phone. One call and this becomes real. One call and the chain reaction starts. Supervisors, directors, governments, the world knows, decisions get made, messages get sent, or don't get sent, or get sent by someone else before consensus is reached. But you can't control any of that once you make the call. Or you delete the data, wipe the logs, erase the backups you can reach. Maybe someone else detects it tomorrow. Maybe they don't. Maybe you're the only one who saw. Maybe you just bought humanity another day, another year, another century of silence, of safety, of time. What do you do? Part 1 taught us the universe might be a dark forest, civilizations hiding from predators, silence as survival, the Fermi paradox solved by terror. Part 2 taught us we might be the predator, broadcasting for a century, announcing ourselves, already, violating the one rule that might keep us alive. Stay quiet. Part 3 brings us here. To the moment theory becomes decision, to the moment silence breaks, and someone, maybe you, maybe someone else, but someone, has to choose what humanity does next. Do we reach out? Do we take the risk? Do we bet our species on hope, on curiosity, on the belief that connection is worth the danger? Or do we stay hidden? Do we protect our children? Do we honour the dark forest logic and remain silent even as our hands shake with the urge to call out into the void? There's no right answer. That's not pessimism. That's reality. Every choice has fatal flaws. Every scenario ends with consequences we can't predict and can't undo. Reach out and maybe we join the cosmos. Or maybe we paint a target on Earth that our grandchildren pay for. Stay silent and maybe we survive. Or maybe we doom ourselves to eternal isolation, missing the one chance to transcend our loneliness because we were too afraid to try. In the dark forest, when you finally meet another predator, there are only two choices. You bare your teeth, or you extend your hand, and you won't know if you chose right until long after it's too late to choose differently. Part 1 asked, why is the universe silent? Part 2 asked, are we the reason? Part 3 asks, what happens when the silence breaks? The answer, we're about to find out. Or we already have, and we just don't know it yet. These questions don't have answers, and that's exactly why they matter. If you followed this trilogy from the beginning, from the silence of the dark forest, through humanity's role in it, to this final impossible choice, you've walked through the darkness with us. You've sat with the discomfort. You've felt the weight of questions that might not stay hypothetical forever. If this exploration meant something to you, a subscribe means we can keep asking these questions together. There are more mysteries waiting, more uncomfortable, truths to examine, more cosmic perspectives that change how we see ourselves. But more than that, I want to know what you would do. Comments below. The signal is confirmed. You're the one who has to decide. Do you make the call? Do you reach out? Do you stay silent? Do you trust the universe or trust the dark forest? Because here's the truth we've been circling for 3 parts. Someday, this won't be theoretical. Someday, someone will detect something, and that person, whoever they are, whenever it happens, they'll be just like you, human, fallible, terrified, doing their best with impossible information and infinite stakes. They'll have to decide for all of us. What would you want them to choose? Think about it. And when you have your answer, when you've really sat with it, felt the weight of it, share it below. Because in the dark forest, we're all deciding together, even if we don't know it yet.